Computer. Cool. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about process and running experiments, which might be a new term for some of you guys. I've been working in startups for probably about 4 years now, maybe three, but it's something that startups do all the time, because we don't really know what works yet. When you have an idea and you start building out a business, you don't know exactly what your perfect product is. You don't know exactly who your perfect customer is. And so you start running a lot of different experiments to try to figure that out. And it can seem a little bit chaotic in the beginning, but the more experiments you run, the more answers you have, and the closer you get to really like finding your product market fit and understanding who your customer is and being able to scale that long term over sometimes, and not even long term, short term. So with Plexus, it's a little bit different. I feel like it's an established company. We have products. We know that people want them, but individually, we're all starting our own business or our own like sales division of the business. And each of you are going to have a completely different audience and a completely different perfect customer. And so I feel like this topic kind of ties in a lot of the other Power 30s that we've been to, at least for me. Ali talked, this was a month ago at least, about figuring out who your customer is and really kind of trying to like detail out and really dial into who that perfect persona is. Like your perfect customer is a mom at home who just had a baby, or your perfect customer is somebody who's retired and looking for purpose again and who's struggling with their health, or your perfect customer. I mean, it could be a number of different things, and you could have many different types of customers in your audience space, and you have to learn how to use your social media to reach all of them. And so that's what Rachel talked about with storytelling and figuring out what your brand is and figuring out the pillars of the brand that's going to like hold you up. And then this also goes back to what my very first Power 30 was about the sales cycle and really filling your funnel and dialing it in and creating those conversion rates through going through the sales cycle process. And all of this also then ties back to your vision. So I think this is just a really great way to take all of these concepts and turn them into something actionable so that you can start growing your business. And it's perfect for this season because, like Sarah talked about yesterday, is getting off of that roller coaster, because it is just that, it's a roller coaster. And progress in our business doesn't always mean recruiting and meeting those like incentive goals or like getting to leaders. Like that isn't always an indication of success. There could be other indications of success, like growth, engagement, the number of conversations you're having, things like that. And so this is a really great time to do this, because as we near the end of the year, November, December, it's been said over and over and over again, we have this huge burst of momentum kind of in August, and then it starts to come down, and that's when people start to get discouraged a little bit. They're like, oh, well, I'm just not seeing as many recruits as I normally do, or I'm losing people, or whatever the case may be. And so when we are in a lull, when we're in a low of our business, just like in startups, is a really amazing opportunity to test out new ways of doing business. And so when you're not having to worry about following up with people who just joined last month, or you're not really rushing to rank or rushing to get a big goal and focusing on recruiting, that's when you can come back and be like, okay, is what I'm doing working? What else can I do to be better? And then what am I doing that is working? And so I want to talk a little bit about how to run experiments and the foundation that you need to have in order to be able to get to that point. So we've talked about setting goals in past Power 30s, understanding your mission and your vision. And when you do set those goals, you need to be able to prioritize them, like what's most important to me. And then you need to come up with a hypothesis. And something like that, an example of that could be, I think that when I go live once a week for a month, then I will increase the number of conversations I'm having with people by 10% or 15%, or like it could be a number of people. Like you can make your hypothesis whatever you want, but hopefully the result of that experiment is an increase in business or an increase in lead generation. And so, what you would do then is that you would test that idea. Okay, so for the next month, I'm going to go live once a week, and I'm going to see if I get more conversations out of it. And if you do, then you know that that's working. Another one could be if I post videos every other day about a certain topic, or it could be just one thing. If I post videos every other day, then I'm going to get more engagement on my posts on Facebook. Another hypothesis could be if I post in the morning, I think I'm going to get more engagement versus if I post in the evening. And so for a week, you could post only in the morning. And then for a week, you could post only in the evening, and you can document what kind of engagement you're getting from both of those things. And you can get a lot of ideas about what works on Facebook from just like Googling, like what's the algorithm and what are best times to post and stuff like that. And all that's a really great starting point. But each one of you, like I said in the beginning, has a completely different audience. And what works for one audience isn't necessarily going to work for the others. I have a lot of corporate people in my audience who they're not checking Facebook at noon, and they're not even checking Facebook at 8 a.m. They're probably not checking Facebook until 8 or 9 o'clock after they get home and dinner and all of that stuff. And so posting in the morning might not be a great time for me, but for you guys, it might be wonderful. So those are the kinds of things that you want to test. So I want to, in a minute, have you guys take some time to theorize what you think is working, because you can test that too. Like if you think that posting 10 stories a day is working for you, you can test that because you could be wrong. And I think it's just a check on what you're doing, especially when you get stuck and you're like, well, I recruited 4 people last month and I recruited 0. What's wrong? It could be a matter of the sales cycle, that you are planting seeds and you reaped the benefits of all those seeds last month and now you're starting over. Or it could be that maybe you've changed something about the way you're engaging with your audience. So it's really good to test what you are doing to just confirm that it is working. And it's really important also to test many things at different points in your business, even if they were proven correct in the beginning. As you grow, your audience will change, and certain things that worked before aren't going to work anymore. And one of the things that I said in the beginning is this was going to be about process too, because this does take some organization and this does take documentation. And it's a way to get into the mindset of being a data-driven business owner, because we don't want to just be like throwing darts with our blindfolds on. Because then you'll hit some every now and again, and then you won't. And then you're like, well, why isn't this working? And you don't really know why you're finding success and why you're not. And so to be a data-driven business owner is really to be a business owner who's honed in on what's working for you, what's not working for you, and you know exactly what to do to create success in your company. So I think it's really, really, really important to, I know a lot of us, some of you guys, me, I love Excel. You don't have to use Excel. You can use a notebook and paper, whatever it is. But when you do run these experiments, you have to document them. It's just like going back to second grade and doing your like scientific method. Like, I have this theory, this is what I'm going to do. Here's my variables. I'm going to document this, and then I'm going to see what the results are. And from there, then you can take your highest performing engagements, whether it's videos or stories or lives, or even the type of posts. Like maybe you think that posting every day about Plexus is really doing you well. And if you go and you look at that and you say, okay, well, I'm going to try something else. And you realize that posting about your kids or posting about your dogs or posting about you know, your daily struggles actually is better for you than posting about Plexus every day. And so this is just about experimenting with how you engage with your audience. Some of the things to remember about running experiments is that you should not test more than one thing at a time. So whatever you're doing right now, if you're going to run an experiment, pick one thing to change, because if you change too many things all at once, then you're not going to know what it was that changed, that moved the needle backwards or forwards. And then the other thing was measure the right metrics. And so metrics could be things like number of likes, number of comments, number of story views, number of messages, number of conversations that you're in. If you are doing emails to your teams, I highly suggest you get a program that will track the number of opens of your emails or the number of clicks of your emails, so that you can go through and see like, oh, I sent an email out with this content in it, but only 20% of the people who I sent it to actually opened it. Okay, next time I'm going to do a completely different format or different content and see how many people open it next time. So that's the other thing. And then you also want to run it for a specific period of time. So whatever experiment you do run, how can you tell? Hold on, I'm putting in the chat. How can you tell how many people opened it? So that's only if you have like a program that will give you that information. And so like, I think there are some free programs. I took the recommendation from Sarah and Amy and started using Flowdesk. And I think it's only like $5 a month or something. I can't remember. I'll have to look it up for you guys. But you can send an email out and then it'll give you analytics on if they were all delivered, because sometimes you don't have the right email address. So it'll tell you if something bounced, and it'll tell you how many people or what percentage of the people opened it. Yeah, it's really cool. There's other email programs like MailChimp that will do that. And you can also schedule them out, your emails out. So like if you want to send a monthly newsletter or a weekly blast to everybody, you can sit down on a Sunday and like put all of your templates together and schedule them out. And it's just a really great, I love email. It's a really wonderful passive way to engage with your audience. And as you guys know, it takes anywhere from 12 to 15 touch points to make a conversion. And I want you guys to put yourself in the user experience of a customer, and think about all the times that you've shopped at a site and they say, give us your email for 15% off your first order. And so you're like, okay, cool, I'll do that. And then you don't order that day, right? Totally, it happens to me all the time. It took me 3 years to buy a pair of boots from this one company. But in that 3 years, they send you emails about all of their deals and what's upcoming and cool things about fall, and like, and you can just like repurpose the same content over and over again. But I tell you what, like having their logo, their email, even if I don't open it, pop up in my inbox, I'm like, oh yeah, I really do love those boots. I need to get on that one day, you know, or, oh yeah, like, I need to remember that I liked that bracelet, you know, like, I don't know, but you guys know, like your inbox is full of sales campaigns, 15% off this, buy one, get one free off that. Black Friday's coming. We're running this huge sale. You get them all the time. That's why like Google created a whole separate promotions folder for all that stuff to go into. And so it's not a bad thing if people don't necessarily open your emails, but they're still seeing your name, your brand in their inbox, outside of Facebook, which I think is also really important, because people are way more open to being sold to, if it's not on personal social media for some reason. I think that's why a lot of people get the stigma about MLMs, because they think they're being taken advantage of for their personal relationships and it's like, it's no different than any other company. It's just, they don't know you. You know, we don't know the marketing people at Target. And so we're not personally offended when they try to sell us something. And so anyway, to be able to reach your audience in multiple ways is really important, but you want to run it for a specific period of time. So say you're saying you want to ask yourself, like, if I do lives twice a week instead of once a week, you just do that for 2 weeks or 3 weeks and see, but don't change anything else. Don't change your other content. Don't start emailing people at the same time. You definitely want to only change that one thing, and then figure out what metrics you want to use to measure them, whether it's the number of messages or the number of clicks. It can be the number of recruits, the number of people that you add to your team, but I don't recommend it because usually our sales cycle isn't that short. And so you're going to get kind of like false results from your experiments if you do use the number of people adding to your team. Because a lot of times, I'll add people from my team, but I've started talking to them 2 months ago. So it has nothing to do with the experiment that I'm currently running. So that was a lot. And I know we started late. So I want to open the floor up to questions. And then really, I was just going to have you guys take a couple minutes to sit down, to write down things that you think are working for you in your social media, or think about the pillars of your brand. Like, pick 5 things that you're going to consistently post about, so that when people think of Betty, they think the 5 things that you want them to think about. Like Marian has done a really fantastic job with attraction marketing. And we all know her brand, right? When everybody thinks of Marian, we think love, sunflowers, hippies, nature, wellness, yoga. Like, it's so clear what Marian stands for and what she's all about. And that's what it should be for each and every one of you guys. But you can't post about sewing and then cooking and then nature and you can, but it has to be kind of like, you have to connect it back to the 5 pillars of your brand. So questions, comments, concerns, feedback. What do you like, what you didn't like, what you wonder?
I really love this, Lauren, because it kind of takes like some weight off and makes it fun. Like, oh, let me play around with this. And so we're not looking at our business as like a job, but something to experiment with. I think it's great. Thank you. I learned so much, even though I came in late.
That's okay. Yeah, and it is. We're all kind of like doing our own little startups here, and it is something to have fun with. That's why we all are in it, for the community and for the success of ourselves, but also because it's fulfilling to us as people. And so if we're constantly just worried about, oh, how many people did I add? I didn't add. Oh, this is so awful, blah, blah, blah. Then now you're on that roller coaster that Sarah was talking about. And this is a really great way to stay off the roller coaster and really focus on growth in a way that's not adding people to your team. And help you just like get excited about engaging with your audience and really find the core of who you are and how you want to run your business. So cool.
Yeah, and I guess another thing I would add is, like, if you're lost at where to start, because I know Lauren said pick one thing, just go back and scroll through your Facebook page and find where you're getting the most engagement, and like choose that as your step one.
Mm-hmm.
And then start to like create your hypothesis from there and see if that continues to work, because I was thinking about it. I was like, whoa, like, where would I start?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Well, that is a great question. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, my dogs are definitely my number one. Everybody in my network knows I sell Plexus,
Mm-hmm.
but my dogs are what usually get the most attention on my post.
Yeah.
Everybody loves pictures of them and the crazy things they do, but how do you have to have like 5 different things? Or like I'm going, okay, after my dogs, I post engaging things,
Mm-hmm.
and those get a lot of comments.
Mm-hmm.
And and then after Rachel's Power 30 the other day, I went back and I deleted a lot of things in my news feed, but I'm also doing more storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And then from the Saturday training, Marianne, and I can never this Loud House on Instagram. Anyway, she was like, always put your picture first,
Mm-hmm.
yourself first. And that's what she does. But she may have like product stuff after that, but she always leads with herself.
Yeah.
And so those are three things that I'm focusing on right now.
Yeah, and I think those are really great things to start with. You know, if you got the advice to start with your picture first, great. Test that out for you, you know, for a couple weeks, just post more pictures of yourself, or when you're in your stories, make sure it's your face first, and see if you get more engagement or more views on your stories. I think that's a great place to start. And to your question about the 5 pillars, do you have to have 5? I think that's probably the most that you should have, because then otherwise people are like, well, I'm not really sure what she's about. She posts about all kinds of stuff, you know? But I think having only one thing is not enough. And then I think, you know, you posting about your dogs is really great. There's a lot of dog lovers in people's audiences. People love dogs. I mean, Tanya Lewis comes to mind. She's done a really great job engaging with her audience in regards to like her dog mom status. Ali Broussard has also done the same thing. But they want to connect with you. And so they want to see your face, not just your dog's. And then they want to know, like, what's Betty interested in? What does Betty stand for? And so, like, maybe if you post a picture about your dogs, you know, oh, Tanya Lewis did a great post about this, and it was about clean dog food. So that shows me, like, she loves dogs, but she's also all about like clean ingredients and clean products and like wellness, not only for us humans, but also for our dogs. And so like that tied in 2 things that she stands for in one post, and really said a lot more about her than I love my dogs. Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I do think you should dig a little bit deeper and find at least 3. And if one of them can be health and wellness, but don't make it plexus centered. Like these 3 pillars need to be outside of plexus. And when you talk about them, that's when you can kind of weave plexus in and out of your brand, but plexus isn't your brand. It shouldn't be. Your brand needs to be you 100%.
Right. Okay. Well, what about your testimony, your like experience? Like my next post coming up is going to be about, you know, me getting out of the shower, and it's a picture of me with my towel on my head and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's not a pillar though. That's a testimony. So that's opposite, or that's something different.
I think your testimony could be put out there every now and again. I don't think we need to be like shouting our testimony every week necessarily. But I think we can also tie our testimonies into our pillars. Like one of my pillars is health and wellness and cooking. And not even cooking, those are 2 different things, but just like generally health and wellness, right? So like I can tie in, like when I go on a workout, I can tie in plexus or my experience with plexus into that pillar. Like, I'm so grateful that I have cleaner workouts than I used to, because I'm such a huge proponent of clean ingredients or whatever the case may be. And I used to use XYZ, and now I have these amazing products to use that I feel so much better about and my body loves and things like that. Did I make sense there?
Right.
You have your pillars, and you can talk about your testimony and your story, but weave them in instead of it just being like a bam, like this is my testimony, and
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Tell a story instead of
Yes.
cells. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing you can do, Betty, is ask people that are close to you. Like, when you think of me, what are the top 5 things you think about?
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember when I was working on rebranding, and I'm sure, I mean, we've both been around for a long time. You've seen the transition in my brand.
Right.
But when I was in that stage, I reached out to people that are close to me, and I was like, you know, what do you think about when you think of me? You know, and even if they just give you adjectives, it'll help you like determine what it is that people see when they think of you, that are the closest to you, because they know you the best, right?
Right. And someone you trust too, like Sarah said the other day. So and you've done that for me before, Marion, and it was wonderful because you really gave me honest feedback. You know,
Yeah.
I may reach out to you again. So
Yeah.
Like one of the
Heads
things I
up.
think of when I think of you is your strong family bond. Like you have like a really grounded family bond, like with your sister and Amy. And I think that that's something that could definitely sell for you because people would relate to that, you know?
Okay. That's good. Thank you.
And the other thing you can do is like this ties in really well with Amy's post yesterday about like want to be a diamond, learn from the diamonds, and she posted a lot of the diamond profiles in that post. Go and see, go and look at their feed and see if you can pull out what their 5 pillars are, what they're consistently
Oh, that's a
posting
good
about,
exercise.
and then and how they're posting about it, right? Because they're not posting plexus, 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 plexus in your face all the time. And not that you guys are either, but I think a lot of times we do these posting challenges and I think they're absolutely wonderful. And we have the content calendar and I think they're absolutely wonderful too. But it prevents us from really understanding what our business is and how we want to talk about Plexus and our experience and how we want to connect with our audience. And so I think these that they can be great suggestions. It's really important for you guys to figure out what works for y'all and post content accordingly, because other than that it's just a bunch of copying and pasting. And that's another reason why MLMs get a bad stigma, because it's just like, oh, I just see the same posts from all the same Plexus people. And that just doesn't give off a very genuine vibe when it comes to connecting with your audience in a real and authentic way. So
Where is that post? Was that on Rockstars?
I think it was on Wellness. I'll try to find it and tag you in it.
Okay.
Yeah. But we're over since we started late. Sorry about that, guys, but I'm glad y'all made it. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you. This was great.
Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, bye
Bye,
bye.
guys.
Bye.